We're going to start in just a second. And here's Donna Sweeney.
Okay, this is the culmination of many years of trying to figure out what to do with this space and this home in Windsor, with this vacant place. And look how wonderful it is. We finally did it. This project took a vacant lot and is now providing valuable housing for Windsor residents, as well as a major investment in the community. Many thanks, in particular, to Matt Moore of Evernorth, as well as Elizabeth Bridgewater and Peter Padgett of Windham Windsor Housing Trust for their perseverance. Thank you for your perseverance and your patience in working with us over the several years to bring this to fruition. Thanks as well to Tom Kennedy. I know he's here somewhere.
He is. He's right
Yes,
there.
Tom Kennedy of the Mount Scottney Regional Commission, and to my hero, Bob Flint of the Springfield Regional Development Corporation. I couldn't have done it without you. And thank you both for your guidance to the WIC board through this process in helping us put the pieces together. I also want to thank the WIC Select Board, the WIC Board, Windsor Improvement Corporation Board, for all their questions, work, and support for this project. We helped take an idea and made it into something that is very appropriate for our community.
Woo.
Lastly,
Yeah, let's clap.
Lastly, I want to especially thank Tom Marsh
Woohoo! Woohoo!
and the Windsor Development Review Board and our Select Board. This has truly been a team effort, and we have something amazing to celebrate in our community today. Thank you all for being here. Town manager, Marsh. Take it away, Tom.
All right. All right, 2 minutes and I'll see if I can do it in laugh. It's hot. This whole project kind of sums up for me in a Zoom call I was on early on, where there were 40 little faces on my little screen of all of the different entities that were involved in putting this project together. I thought there's no way this was going to get done on time. You know, it's a nice thing, it's going to happen, but we're going to have a little patience. The complexity, at least on the money side, the regulatory side, I don't know what it all was. There were just all kinds of agencies involved. And when it finally came down to it, and we broke ground, which seems like yesterday, really, the one person I thought I was going to become best friends with was Peter Nelson. And Peter was like the site manager. Is he still? He was with Negley and Chase. He was in the trailer over here. And so right in the beginning it was, are you guys going to get out of the way for the cars? Where are we going to put the snow? But after the second week, I never saw him again. Like, this went so smoothly. Like, that's all from the municipal side of things, there's a lot of people that are going to get thanked and a lot of people who put a lot of effort into this. But this project was seamless. They came in, they did what they were supposed to do. They did it without fanfare. When there was a concern, it was addressed right away. I mean, I wish every contractor, every organization, every subcontractor we deal with could use this as an example. So I just want to say thank you to the guys who ran the project, who did the work, that put air conditioning inside, did not put it outside. And just, I don't know if it's thankless for them or not, but I wanted to make sure I said thank you to them. Thank you.
I was just saying that to the two young men from Negley and Chase about 2 minutes ago. They did do an amazing job. So yeah, today's about a lot of thank yous and a big celebration, but I just, something happened right before I got up to speak that I just wanted to talk about, and that is I met one of the young men that works for the cookie company that graced us with these beautiful cookies. They're a business right in town.
Covered Bridge cookies.
Covered Bridge cookies. Yeah. Thank you. And he was just sharing how excited he was about this project because so many of his friends and young people of his generation are either living in the woods right now or precariously housed or have left the area. And so to be standing in the shadow of this building today was just like palpably exciting for him. And I thanked him because, you know, we're talking a lot about funding and different aspects of the project, but really that's why we're here. And so I just feel really grateful for that story. And, so this building is going to become home. It's already home, actually, to a few folks who have already moved in. 25 new households. 6 of the apartments are designated for people exiting homelessness. And they're going to be supported by Springfield Supportive Housing with funding available from the Vermont State Housing Authority. So a lot of goodwill going in to help support people that really need housing. So this project was developed by the Housing Trust and Evernorth, but it wouldn't have happened without the clear vision of Tom Marsh. I remember meeting Tom right when he, shortly after he moved to Windsor from a town that I was actually familiar with because I had a really good friend that grew up in that town in Connecticut. And you know, one of the first things he said was, we need mixed income housing in the village. It's a big part of revitalizing this village and bringing life back to the businesses that are here. And he really understood the connection between housing and economic vitality and has been just a passionate supporter of this project from the beginning. It's also as a result of the Windsor Improvement Corp, and you've already heard from Donna, who's on the board, but also Bob Flint, who was on the staff and just really pushing this project forward. They made the land available to us for the generous sum of $1.
Woo!
So a huge contribution to the project. And it was Matt Moore from Evernorth, our co-development partner, that really took the first step forward in working with Bob and Pete Podgy on our development team to kind of hammer out the original agreement. We also want to thank Tom Kennedy and Jason Rasmussen and Cindy Ingersoll, who in addition to providing funding showed up in countless ways to support the project. There's also a role for our elected officials because, you know, it costs a lot of money to build a building like this, and that money comes from countless hours of advocacy that happen both within the community that are sitting here, but also our elected officials who are making decisions about how to spend valuable taxpayer dollars. And so we are very, very lucky to have a delegation both in this region at the state level, but also in Washington that are passionate about housing. And so I just want to thank, I know Senator Allison Clarkson is here today, passionate advocate for housing. Representative Elizabeth Burrows is here somewhere. There you go. Passionate advocate for housing. And of course, our very special guest, Congresswoman Becca Balint, who we're so excited that is joining us today. I've already mentioned Springfield Supportive Housing. I also want to mention that Stewart Property Management is managing this property. And for those of you that know Paul and his team, they do an amazing job. They're already managing a lot of apartments here in Windsor and have a wonderful reputation of providing safe and decent housing and keeping curb appeal and the apartments in good working order. As community-based developers, we believe in creating a strong sense of place and belonging. Make sure I'm speaking into the mic. With the communities that we build. That includes acknowledging that this land that we're building on is ancient and has a long history, and it's full of history of people who have lived here in pre-colonial days and folks that came after that. And so we worked with the local Abenaki community and Windsor residents to identify significant plantings that would be a touchstone for that history. And so there's plantings that are happening right in front of the building that are been selected by that group of folks that joined us to look back at the history of this land.
That's great.
In addition, and this is something I'm really excited about because I saw the draft of the artwork, but as you notice on the staircase going down, there's kind of an archway, and it's obviously getting ready for something, and you might be wondering what that something is. It's a bas-relief piece of interpretive art that captures stories and images of Windsor. And the Vermont artist, Carrie Furlani, is the one who is creating this piece. Actually, as we speak, she's finishing it up. And it's absolutely gorgeous. There's 3 slate panels that have been carved with images that evoke different parts of Windsor history. And I won't say more than that because I think it'll be fun actually to kind of view it and sort of see what you can pick up when you look at it. Earlier, I want to thank Michael. Michael Wisniewski is the architect of this project, and he's going to get thanked in a lot of ways. But one of the ways that I want to thank Michael is by donating his time for that placemaking work. He worked with Lisa Kuhneman on our development staff to coordinate a meeting in the dead of winter, and lots of people showed up to provide ideas and inspiration for the artwork. So it was really a community-based project that I think everyone's going to really be excited when it gets installed. So earlier I mentioned the federal delegation, and I know there's several members, staffers that are here today, and I know that they're going to be highlighted a little bit later in the program. But I do want to, I'm a little bit giddy to be the one that gets to introduce Congresswoman Ballin, because I'm a huge fan, as she knows. I can't help it. I can't pretend that I'm not a fangirl. So one of the things that you might know is that the Congresswoman likes to refer to herself as scrappy, which is just another way of saying determined, undaunted, and able to push through obstacles to make things happen. She did this when she was a state senator and advancing the housing revenue bond that created over 800 new units of housing across the state. And she did this in introducing the Community Housing Act in 2023 that seeks to address the housing crisis across the country with new investments centering inclusionary zoning, promoting permanent affordability, and strengthening the path to homeownership. While it's true that the landscape in Washington has shifted dramatically since she introduced this bill, this Congresswoman has never stopped fighting to protect federal housing funding, and she consistently uses her power and her strong voice to advocate for justice, equity, and a world where everyone is safe and has a place to live and the support they need. So I'm so pleased to welcome Congresswoman Becca Ballin. Because I'm short,
Scrappy.
yeah, I'm just gonna do this. Okay. Hi. Good afternoon, my friends. I see so many people out here that I've done shared work with over the years, and believe me when I tell you I would much rather be here today than in DC, though I will be heading back there early tomorrow morning. I know that so many of us, we share common values and purpose, and we share a fierce belief that you can make positive change, and by making that positive change, alleviate suffering. And that has been the through line through my life. You know, because you're here today, building homes is not just critically important for individuals and for communities, it's also critical work that we have to do to knit this country back together. I believe that in my soul. We find ourselves at such a dark time in our nation's history because so many people feel like they don't have hope for the future. They feel let down by systems and individuals who are only concentrating on the people at the very top. They have lost faith, not just in the American dream, but in our very democracy itself. And you know this, and you say it, you see it day in and day out, and I hear it
as I travel not just across Vermont, but across the country. So many Vermont families and individuals are facing the crushing burden of this housing crisis. They need us to take urgent action to alleviate this growing crisis. And I hear from Vermonters constantly, they can't find housing for themselves. They're concerned that they're not going to be able to find housing for their kids or their grandchildren, and it feels quite bleak. So we have to solve the national housing crisis by creating more homes, period. And this community housing project here is absolutely part of the solution. So I've said this before, but I want to articulate it for all of you here today. Housing sits at the nexus of so many of the challenges that we face, not just in our communities, but across the country, whether it's our workforce shortage, crushing income disparity, the devastating mental health crisis, and the crisis of loneliness and disconnection, our struggles with the opioid epidemic, all of these things. Creating housing is a key component to helping to solve these problems. And you know well that housing is the foundation upon which all of our lives are built. Access to affordable, safe housing offers families the stability they need. It gives stability to kids, and many of you know, I'm a former teacher. I see these issues through the lens of the families and students that I taught for so many years in 4 different rural public schools in Vermont. Kids cannot thrive if they do not have safe, secure housing. So it's absolutely fundamental. And the work like this is meaningful and consequential work. And it's so critical that these units are going to be remaining affordable into the future. That's part of the solution to the problem. So I continue to be so grateful for all of the organizations who are here, all of the elected officials that are doing this work together, all of you in the community that have believed in this project. And as I said, these projects on the ground in communities across this country are going to be the things that bring us back together, that give people faith in government again, that it can be a source of solutions, a source of equity, a source of hope for people who have lost that hope. And I want to leave you with something that I was thinking about this morning. There was this incredible quote from Charles Dickens from The Old Curiosity Shop. And it's a novel that is not as popular as some of his others, but in the day, it was very, very popular. And in this novel, he wrote, "In love of home, the love of country has its rise." And by this, Dickens meant that it's one's appreciation and affection for their country that can grow from the love that someone feels from their home and sense of place, which Elizabeth talked to, and their sense of community. And he suggests that the sense of belonging and commitment to a larger community can develop from this foundational and fundamental tenderness that we feel for our home and family when we have a sense of place. As we feel more calm, as we feel more secure, we are more able to look outward. We are more able to extend our energy into helping to foster that sense of community and connection, not just in our communities, but in the very nation. And a sense of home can help us each develop our sense of purpose and shared belonging. And we desperately need that right now. So I want to thank you most sincerely for the work that you have all done to bring this through to fruition. And I want to congratulate the people here who are going to be calling this beautiful place home. Thank you so much. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Nancy Owens, the president of Evernorth, that's going to share some remarks with her. And I just have to say, if you don't know it, these people are rock stars, okay? Tirelessly committed to the mission. So nice to see you.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, sorry. No, I'm not much, I got my clogs on. Gave me an extra inch. Thank you for the words of inspiration and encouragement and truth. It's really lovely to have you here, and even better to know you're working on our behalf in DC. So good to be here. So I am Nancy Owens, the president of Evernorth and the co-owner and developer of Central and Main Apartments, along with our terrific partner Windham and Windsor Housing Trust. And we have a long history working together, bringing affordable homes, not just in this region, but here in Windsor. You know, for more than 20 years, our two organizations have partnered to build and steward affordable housing. Again, as I said, including the properties here in Windsor, like the Millbrook Apartments and Windsor Village Apartments. Woo! Congresswoman Ballant touched on permanent affordability, and I want to say it is a cornerstone of Vermont housing policy, a policy that was decided decades ago, that whenever the state invests in affordable housing, it would protect these investments, this building, forever. And it has proven to be a very smart economic policy as well. For each state and federal dollar that we invest here today, it's providing a permanent return to the people of Windsor. In other states, these multi-million-dollar investments are termed out. They may only last a certain period of time, and then the building transitions back to the market, rents go up, and the property may not be serving the same folks anymore. So there's a great example of this experience right here in Windsor with Windsor Village. 77 affordable apartments for seniors and families just up the road. Under its original financing scheme in place in the late 1970s, that property required just 30 years of affordability. In 1994, we acquired Windsor Village with the assistance of the Vermont Housing Finance Agency. And then a number of years later, in 2010, with funding from VHCB, we added the permanent affordability requirements so that today, that property has provided already 45 years of affordable homes. You can think about the number of people. And it will do that long into the future. And just imagine if that outcome hadn't been that way. Right? Where would those seniors and families be living? So permanent affordability is a smart investment for Vermont. And I appreciate, again, the Congresswoman for recognizing and knowing so much about housing policy, and your ambitious plan that Elizabeth mentioned to invest over $500 billion in housing, and doing it the Vermont way with those cornerstones of permanent affordability and the community land trust model. Is just fabulous, so thank you. Thank you for being here again. And we also need your support and strength to safeguard our federal housing resources, and I know you know that, and we'll be doing the best that you can. But these new homes, the 25 homes here, they're greatly needed, right? We have a housing crisis, and they represent just a small contribution against the 30,000 homes that we know that we need across Vermont over the next 5 or 10 years. But these homes would not exist but for nearly $4 million in federal funds that are part of this capital stack that we're going to be talking a little bit more about. And these federal dollars are threatened with cuts and elimination, whether it's the capital dollars to build the building or it's the essential support that the people living here will receive, for example, from the Vermont State Housing Authority through their project-based and tenant vouchers. So if these cuts at the federal level occur,
we're just not going to be here celebrating new housing for a long, long time. It's going to take time to get new housing built. And that means Vermonters are going to have a harder time. I think we'll see more homelessness and more challenges with hiring and retaining employees, and more harm done to just our children, our families, our neighbors, our community, and the fabric of our communities. And I agree, this does not have to happen, that our country can and has and can do it. We can care for the basic needs for all of us. It is very possible. And when everybody has a home they can afford, all of us benefit, every single one of us. So just hope that we can continue to work together to make that happen. Okay. So I want to pivot to recognize the many organizations and funders who've made this housing possible. And I'm going to start with our equity investor. So Evernorth, one of Evernorth's roles is to raise capital from our bank partners across the region to purchase tax credit equity and finance the housing. In this case, $8.1 million was provided from TD Bank through a fund that we raised with them. So TD is a big supporter of affordable housing and has been for decades. They have been a long-term investor in housing, and they've invested over $500 million just through Evernorth. Our colleagues from TD, James Fraser and Brian Loeb, were instrumental in working on this project, so I hope to thank them. Evernorth is also playing a role bringing construction and permanent financing through a vehicle called the Upper Valley Loan Fund. This is another way that we've raised capital, but it's very unique. And it was the inspiration for this fund was spearheaded by Mascoma Bank, the Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, Hanover Food Co-op, and King Arthur Baking. And those four employers brought together some of their colleagues and other employers from the Upper Valley region, including the Dartmouth College, Bar Harbor Bank and Trust, Citizens Bank, and Hypertherm. And together, they joined together and raised $10.5 million to invest through Evernorth. Their decision to make that investment through us was so that we could deploy those funds into projects like this, and so this project is using it. And it really is about the recognition that housing is a big challenge for the community, for employers, and they believe, again, that as we can house everybody, it will improve lives for everyone. So it's really great that they've done this, and we're excited that this is the second project that will be completed using those funds. Woo! Yeah. I want to echo my thanks to the town of Windsor. It's an amazing place to be working, and the support that you've shown through all your various bodies has been fantastic. And on a personal note, my first housing project that I was involved in, well, now maybe close to 30 years ago, was the Stoughton House just down the road. So I spent a lot of time in Windsor, and glad to be back here again. I want to recognize our the complete congressional delegation that show up and support us here in Vermont and in DC. And I know we have folks from Senator Welch's office. I think Miles McGurnan is here.
Yeah,
Miles can make it.
James.
Thank you for being here. From Senator Welch's office, and Ethan Lawrence from Senator Sanders' office. Thank you, Ethan. And I know you have a whole bunch of people here with you today.
Yeah, I've got my team over here, David and Thomas, and Louise is somewhere. I don't see. There you go.
Thank you. And in particular, I want to thank Senator Sanders. There's a $1 million grant that was used in this project that came directly through Senator Sanders for the construction, supporting the construction of the project. our state legislators and other community leaders who advocate for and legislate for housing here in Vermont, and for our state agencies, the Vermont Housing Conservation Board and VHFA, who both participated substantially in the funding for this building. And we're going to hear reflections from our executive directors, Gus Seelig and Maura Collins, about those contributions and a little in the program. As I noted, while all the residents are benefiting from this housing, 6 residents are going to have more affordable rents and are coming from being unhoused. And they are going to be supported through having project-based vouchers that help them to support them into this transition for permanent housing. And that is through the efforts of our partners at the Vermont State Housing Authority. So a big thank you for their long-term support. The Vermont Department of Economic Development and Mount Escutney Regional Commission provided absolutely critical funding to manage the brownfields issues at this site. It was a tremendous undertaking. There was a lot of work and coordination to make that happen. And Christy Farnham, from the Director of Business Support with the state, is going to make some few remarks during the program as well. So thank you. I also want to call out and appreciate the investments we were able to make around energy issues for this building through Efficiency Vermont and through Green Mountain Power. This is an all-electric building. It's designed and constructed with attention to conservation and efficiency, and it will save us 70 tons of carbon per year. So finally, all of us gathered here today are here because we have a role. We played a role, small or large, in this project. We may live in this community, work for one of the many organizations that are involved, be an active advocate or supporter, or just cheering from the sidelines. So, yes, thank you. So no matter your part, what I see as I stand here and look around is a group of people who care deeply about this community and the people in this community, and who believe that housing is way more than just 4 walls and a roof, but it is the very basis for a strong, healthy, satisfying life.
You're here.
So thank you all for all of your part in this project. And I'm going to turn it over to our first funding speaker, an important speaker. Thank you, Gus Seelig from the Vermont Housing Conservation.
Okay, what a great day to celebrate, and we need any day that we can celebrate right now because these are such hard times that we're living through. I want to start just by recognizing my staff who worked on this project, Lee Youngman and Polly Major, who make it easy and possible for me to stand up here. I want to thank the town of Windsor that we've had a long relationship with that goes back to the Stoughton and Everett's and Cox houses, and it took me 10 years to get what used to the state magazine. It used to be a magazine called Vermont Life, for those of you who are younger. Get them to do a story about us. And when they finally did one, they went to the Everett's house and they met a woman sitting in this beautiful living room, and she said to them, and this was right below her picture, "You can't live here and feel poor. It's just too beautiful." And that's what we need to aim for in the work we do, is for people to feel a part of a community, and that's what Windsor keeps doing. It was a hot July day when we broke ground, or maybe it was June day a year or so ago, and what I noted and remembered then was that this community always gives us big challenges. It gave us the Union Block, and when we did it, it was the most expensive project we'd ever done. And when we got this one, it was also the most expensive project we'd ever done.
But they're worth it.
They're worth it. And there's a difference between what it costs and the value that we get from a project like this. And I need all of you to help explain that to people. What it means to clean up a polluted site, what it means for people to live in the center of their community. I am going to note one piece of the problem here, which is that people were concerned about height. And as a person who spends a lot of time working on conservation, working with all of you who work in West Windsor to turn that into a town forest around the ski area, those of you who enjoy Lake Runnymede, if we want to preserve the countryside of Vermont, we need to grow more densely in town. And it was a fundamental issue when we got to funding this that we'd lost 5 apartments because people wanted the building to be shorter. So keep that in mind for the next one, please. I want to note a couple things. I'm wearing an AmeriCorps hat today because we just had a victory.
Yes.
About 5 or 6 weeks ago, at 6:30 in the evening, an email was sent out across the country that canceled and all the people in service to our communities and told them to go home. We told our members not to go home, and a few weeks later, the federal court said, that's right, and the administration is not appealing, so that program is going to continue. It speaks to the importance of pushing back, of fighting back every day. But the sadness of what we're doing, and in my work it covers agriculture, is that a number of agricultural workers were rounded up in Franklin County a few weeks ago. 10 folks working on construction on a site at the old Sacred Heart complex, the old school, were taken by ICE just 2.5 weeks ago. So these are dark times. These are hard, hard times that we're living in. We need the outrage and hurt and grief and anger and rage that our Congresswoman has expressed today, and her willingness to go into that beast of a place and keep fighting for us, and thank you so much. The first time I saw our Congresswoman outside of the State House, we were at an event in Brattleboro where we were opening permanent supportive housing, and I don't think you were yet pro tem, and I just listened to you for about 50 seconds, and I said, the Vermont legislature, to myself, is not her last stop. We are so fortunate that you're willing to take it on for all of us.
Hear, hear.
A couple words about the Windham Windsor Housing Trust. This is great for Windsor. A few weeks ago, we broke ground in Putney on 25 apartments after a hard fight. A year ago, we opened housing in downtown Bellows Falls, and sometime in the next year, we'll break ground in Brattleboro. So up and down the Connecticut River, Elizabeth and her staff, Peter, are delivering housing, and there's probably nobody better in the state at engaging the community and the residents than Marion Major, so thank you, Marion, for what you do. I have no idea what it would be to be on tour with a band, but I feel sometimes like with Nancy, we are on tour. We've been all over the state because you're getting good stuff done all over the place, whether we're breaking ground in Newport or Putney, whether we're opening housing as we did a couple weeks ago in Heinsberg, breaking ground in Rutland. The list just goes on and on. You guys have been everywhere. You've also lent your support to the community that of homeless service providers to provide TA to them, and it's just been a remarkable, remarkable run. And Representative Ballant, as you finished up your time in Montpelier, you set the stage for huge investments beyond the housing revenue bond. And just to put numbers on it, VHCB is now past 5,000 homes, apartments, shelter beds. Our friends at VHFA and the Department of Housing and Community Development, I'm sure, are going to add a couple thousand to that total. So you planted a great foundation here, and one day you're going to do the same for housing in DC. The last thing I want to share is my friend Chuck Collins, who helped get housing, a community land trust started in Barre, Vermont, when we were both much younger. I had hair, his wasn't gray. He came up from the Institute for Community Economics to tell us what a community land trust was, as his friend and colleague John Davis had done. And that was the beginning of Ripples of Hope. He mentioned to me some of the things I said in Putney a few weeks ago. We're both reading a biography of John Lewis. just as a matter of needing the inspiration. Another book I read this winter was by the historian Doris Kearns Goodwin, a memoir of both the 1960s, a memoir of her marriage, and a memoir of her husband, the late Dick Goodwin, who was a speechwriter for JFK and then LBJ. He's the guy who put "We Shall Overcome" into the speech that asked Congress to pass the Voting Rights Act. And then he worked for Gene McCarthy and for Robert Kennedy, the senior, not the. And what I want to give you, in 1966, he wrote a speech that's known as the Ripples of Hope speech for Kennedy when he went to South Africa at the invitation of students, not the government. It would be almost a quarter century before Nelson Mandela would get out of prison and lead his nation and the world in a peaceful way. So those folks know something about living through a dark time and pushing through it. I'm not going to give you the whole speech, but he talks about a lot of different things, and then he talks about dangers. And he says the first is the danger of futility, the belief that there is nothing one man or one woman can do against the enormous array of the world's ills, against misery, against ignorance or injustice and violence. Yet many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of a single man or woman. Goes on to say, "Give me a place to stand," said Archimedes, "and I will move the world. Few will have the greatness to bend history, but each of us can work to change a small portion of the events, and in the total of all these acts will be written the history of this generation. Thousands of Peace Corps volunteers are making a difference in isolated villages and city slums of dozens of countries. Thousands of unknown men and women in Europe resisted the occupation of Nazis, and many died, but all added ultimately to the strength and freedom of their countries. It is from numberless, diverse acts of courage such as these that the belief that human history is thus shaped. Each time a man or woman stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression. Windsor, thank you for this ripple of hope today. I was one time described by Ted Brady as Pat Leahy's bagman. I'm happy that VHCB was able to deliver for Senator Sanders $1 million to this project. And Ethan, you are the next speaker, so come on up.
Thank you, Gus. Good to see you. How's it going, everyone? A little bit of wind here. Sorry, I should have brought an extra shirt. My Lord. Anyway, we'll figure it out. My name is Ethan Avendano Lawrence. I am an outreach representative for Senator Bernie Sanders. Really proud to be here with you, and particularly proud, if I may say, because I'm a Windsor resident as well. I live right up there. I live right down there with the groundbreaking. And I got to tell you, it's been a joy to know about this project, to be following this project and managing kind of on our end to see this congressionally directed spending at project going forward, and to just kind of drive by every day and see the progress. You know, amidst other times in our government where we're feeling that we're kind of delayed. We haven't delivered on housing as a human right like we necessarily wanted to. So this has been something I know for me, but I know that my friends and other neighbors in Windsor have really derived a lot of hope from. So I'm really grateful as a Windsor resident. And particularly, Nancy, you brought up Windsor Village. And my mom lives in Windsor Village. And she moved there from Hartford, where I grew up, to be probably down the road from her youngest, sure. But she also moved there because she knew folks that were there. And they said it's safe, it's clean, it's solid, good community there. And when she got there, she had a space that we didn't have before, which was to have the rest of my massive family on her side over for Thanksgiving. And then that transitioned into, oh, well, we have turkey and we have soup. And because there's always Italian families, so there's way too much food. But we had soup, we had turkey, and then the other residents come in. And so then it was just like this opportunity that this community gets to build, and it just blossoms and it blossoms and it blossoms in ways that we're not always going to see up front. Anyway, that's not necessarily all the stuff I want to tell you, but a real note of gratitude personally as a Windsor resident. I know the senator would love to be here, but of course you're all probably following the news. Yeah. We're very busy in the Senate and then DC right now, and have been for a few days straight. It's no secret that we're in the midst of a massive housing crisis in Vermont, and that is the core reason why Senator Sanders fought really hard for this congressionally directed spending project in fiscal year 23 for $1 million with our partners at VHCB. So big thank you to Gus as well. Safe, quality, and affordable healthcare and housing is a human right. Period. Full stop. This today is a huge step in making this a reality in Windsor and around Vermont as well. What Senator Sanders loves about congressionally directed spending is that it really allows Vermonters to, from the grassroots, bring projects and bring community together around really important projects in a way that kind of bypasses a lot of federal bureaucracy. It just gets the funding directly to the movers and shakers in our community, the movers and shakers who are here today. In fiscal year 23, Senator Sanders was able to secure about $42 million to address critical needs in Vermont, including healthcare, childcare, infrastructure, clean water and energy, farming and agriculture, education, and housing. We were fortunate enough to partner with VHCB, and we're really looking forward to continuing the fight in Washington going forward to make sure that we're not going to give up on working people, that we're going to continue to fight for working people and make sure that housing as a human right is felt more and more and across the state. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ethan. Our next speaker is Christy Farnham.
These are some tough acts to follow. I don't know. I'm feeling like I'm going to disappoint, like I should have written a joke or something. Because, yes, my name is Christy Farnham. I am the Director of Business Support at the Agency of Commerce and Community Development within the Department of Economic Development. And if folks recognize my name, it's likely tied to the management of our brownfield revitalization programs and in my role as the Vermont State Program Manager for the Northern Border Regional Commission. I'm honored to be here today amongst friends and leaders and just so many partners. It's wonderful to see. As a side note, where is Matt? Matt Moore. A lot of credit is due folks like Matt Moore. Matt, in particular, is constantly reaching out to me to sort of vet a stray. And I always say, Matt, I have a full caseload. We've got all sorts of projects. We're getting low on funding. I don't need another cat. And then he keeps at it, and he keeps at it, and he wants to introduce the cat, and then we meet the cat, and then we play with the cat, and next thing you know, I have another cat. And I really appreciate that persistence and that grit. So thank you, Matt. So my participation today is largely tied to the agency's contributions through a couple of our programs, the Brownfield Revitalization Fund State Program and the Community Recovery and Revitalization Program, both being capitalized by ARPA Coronavirus Rescue Funds and or the associated general fund surplus following the unprecedented level of federal relief that we all experienced after the pandemic. In 2022, the Vermont legislature appropriated $40 million of ARPA funding to the Community Recovery and Revitalization Program, or CRRP as we call it, which provides funding for projects that spur economic recovery and revitalization in communities across the state. Eligible use of these funds include capital improvements related to the renovation or creation of childcare, affordable housing, for low and moderate income households, capital projects that assisted nonprofits and small businesses and industries most impacted by the pandemic, as well as municipal water supply and wastewater projects that build housing or create jobs through business creation and expansion. These recovery funds were intended to retain and expand existing businesses and nonprofit organizations. CRRP awarded nearly $400,000 to the Central and Main project towards the cost of site work, exclusive of the brownfields remediation and other construction hard costs. The Brownfield Revitalization Fund state program, or BRF as we call it, promotes the productive reuse of sites that were vacant or were underutilized due to environmental contamination. This program provides sub-grants to nonprofit organizations, municipalities, and unlike our federal program, for-profit entities too. The state program was capitalized by $23 million in general fund money and represents the largest ever state investment in brownfields cleanups. Thank you, Governor Scott. To date, the BRF state program has funded 44 projects across 11 counties, and those investments anticipate the creation of 844 jobs, adding 718 units of housing across 80 acres, while leveraging nearly $400 million in redevelopment funding. $400 million. No typo there. The BRF state program awarded $625,000 to this project for the implementation of the environmental corrective action to pave the way for the redevelopment of a vacant downtown site. So braiding these two programs allowed the agency to provide $1.02 million in grant funds to this transformational project. Like many of the speakers before me, I just want to call out that I want to remind everyone that in Vermont, we do things differently and in the best of ways. And together we are targeting unprecedented public resources to yield unprecedented investment impacts. The Central and Main project is one of dozens where local, state, and federal partners worked in concert towards shared redevelopment targets. Our partnerships are converting a vacant, contaminated site in a designated downtown to a 25-unit, energy-efficient, accessible property that moves the needle towards ending our housing crisis. Thank you for the invitation to be part of today's celebration and for being a part of the effort to do things differently to deliver results for Vermonters.
Hi, I'm Maura Collins. I'm with the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, and when the microphone's battery dies, it tells you that you need to wrap it up. So, I'm going to point out this necklace that I'm wearing. This is engraved with my grandmother's name, Rosemary Donahue, and this looks like a pretty necklace, but my grandmother was a librarian married to a journalist, so it becomes a pencil. And this is where you take notes about the good ideas that strike you. This is how I was raised, and I wear this a lot because I'm always getting good ideas and inspiration from not only the people I'm sitting here with, but the conversations I'm having with the residents and the projects like we see here today. So I'm here very briefly because the Vermont Housing Finance Agency is the administrator of some federal tax credits that funded a lot of this building. That would not have been possible without the support of the congressional delegation. And Representative Ballant, from the moment she got into office, has been co-sponsoring bills to increase the amount of tax credits that Vermont would get so that we can do more of this good work. So the things have already been said by other people, so I'm going to tell you the things that I made a note of. Granted, it was on my phone because my grandmother's was really old. But here are the things. I just want to recap because I also on the side have been a professor at UVM. So these are the notes. If any of you are younger and you're used to the acronym, you now see TLDR. It stands for too long, didn't read. And so this is the TLDR of what you just heard. Federal tax credits are important for housing.
Yes.
They wouldn't happen without congressional support, and Vermont's got the best of them. DC otherwise is a hot mess. Okay?
Can't confirm.
Thank you. Vermont is doing amazing things. There are too many acronyms, too much funding, too much details that have to go into this, and it does make our lives harder, but it's worth it. we are making amazing progress towards our goals in this state. That is because of strong state support that we have by our elected officials as well as our dedicated public servants. Local creativity that's happening regionally as well as at the town level is critical so that those of us with the checks far away can come in and invest in what you're doing. And the only thing that didn't get covered by the others is more kudos to the amazing work of the Windham Windsor Housing Trust, led by Elizabeth. I was lucky enough to be here a couple weeks ago for their annual meeting and got to hear about, is it called One Brattleboro? This innovative, interdisciplinary, multi-agency partnership of how they're working together to address Brattleboro's most critical needs. I have had the privilege of working alongside Elizabeth on the Federal Home Loan Bank Advisory Council for the last 5 years. She's wrapping up her term. She used to be chair of that group. And what is happening in Windsor and Putney and Bellows Falls and Brattleboro and lots of other towns, she is bringing that knowledge to New England and wagging her finger politely and professionally at funders to make sure that they support this kind of work. And we serve together on the board of Let's Build Homes, a newer advocacy organization that's talking about how we need to be doing more of this in more places. And I'm very grateful that for a very long time, I won't out either of us, we've been working together on the developments that Gus mentioned and policy advocacy across the state, because Windham Windsor is a model for the rest of the state to follow. And so thank you for having me here. And I would like to re-invite Nancy and Elizabeth to do their own TLDR.
Well, thank you, Maura. We have worked a lot together. I think you started your job right when I started in this role. Yeah. I remember having lunch with you, and we've done a lot of good work together, so thank you. I was recently invited to be a cheerleader for the Village Initiative, which is a state project that is funding lots of small community work, communities under 2,000. And what I said to this group in my role was, if you encounter problems, guess what? You're a developer. Like, that's the nature of the work. It's about solving problems. And so I just want to call out our development team at the Housing Trust, because they are chief problem solvers and very good at it. So Peter Paggi, who's our Director of Real Estate Development, and Lisa Kuhneman, who's our Associate Director, are key problem solvers that don't shy away when things come up. They actually just like roll up their sleeves and figure it out. And this building is a result of that can-do attitude. I got a few more and then I'll turn it over.
Okay, I was going to just do them at this time.
Nope, I want to also thank Marion Major, who's also on our staff, who is not technically part of the development team, but is very, very involved in the community outreach and also hosting events like this. She's incredibly good at it, and I'm deeply grateful for her. So thank you, Marion. And then finally, in terms of the Housing Trust, I want to thank the Board of Directors. We have a community-based committee structure that draws in board members and community members that look at different project opportunities and give the staff feedback. They also occasionally will jump in when there's problems to solve and provide their expertise and guidance in their own cheerleading for the staff. And so several folks who are on the board are here tonight. Leo Schiff, who's our new board president, Victor Morrison, who's our outgoing board president but staying on the board, Chuck Collins, who you heard from Gus, has a long history with the Housing Trust model in Vermont and elsewhere. Denny Frazee, thank you for being here, Denny, who's been on our project committee for many, many years. Kayanta, where's Kayanta? Who works at Springfield Supportive Housing and also on our board. Kayanta, thank you for being here, and I don't think I missed anybody, but if I did, thank you. Turn it over to Nancy to
Okay, like your stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Yes, and we also have a large team that's been involved in the project, and I want to call out Jim Wogan and his lending team, who worked on the Upper Valley Loan Fund loan. Matt Moore has gotten some kudos here today as being one of the developer. Jack Turvey and Ryan Baker Dunn also worked as project managers and worked on this project. Fran Estes is with our asset management group. Bill Schrecker and Beth Boutin manage the investment of the tax credits. So thank you all for your patience.
Shall you or shall I?
Go ahead.
There's a few more people that didn't get mentioned yet that we want to call out, and that is the Efficiency Vermont and Green Mountain Power, who provide lots of rebates for good work around building operations. And then I mentioned Michael Wisniewski earlier in the program. Michael's our architect and just did a beautiful job with the design of this building. It's just so gorgeous. And the thing that I love about this work, Michael, is when you look at the building from the front, it's sort of nestled into the streetscape, and it doesn't look as large as it actually is. You did such a lovely job of locating it in the place that it sits. And then when you come up from the, looking at it south, it kind of fits in right with the other buildings. So you did such a beautiful job of filling in this vacant lot with such a beautiful building. So thank you for you and your team for doing that work.
And then we also had a lot of support from KAS Consulting. They're the environmental folks. As you've heard, there was a lot of work that involved in cleaning up this site. So Jeremy Roberts, thank you for your work. And finally, Nagley and Chase, right? You've been here for a year or more, every day, in and out, doing terrific work. And Andrew Martin, Heidi Davis, and Evan Douglas is the team from Nagley and Chase who've just done a fabulous job.
Gadget arms.
Keep it taut. Okay, go for it.
Okay, everybody get in there.
Who's counting us down?
Are you ready? I think I'm the main one.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. You don't have to back up, guys. I gotta get back a little.
Hey, just don't get hit by a car, please.
Thomas, we're gonna stand on the base. All right, we ready?
Okay.
Okay.
Give us a 1, 2, 3.
Yep. 1, 2, 3. Go.